Well, I mean, Longines is one of the biggest companies in the Swiss watch industry, one of the 7 that is reaching a turnover of more than 1 billion Swiss francs. And like you said, yes, it's always the CEO that has adapted, not the company to the CEO. And for me, one of the first things when I arrived in Longines was that I visited the museum to understand the brand. By visiting the museum, you really discover a treasure. And despite the fact that I was working already since more than 20 years in the watch industry, there were so many things that I discovered by visiting this museum. I didn't know that Longines invented the GMT movement. I didn't know that Longines invented the flyback movement, that Longines had a huge advance in high-frequency technology. And high-frequency technology was the technology that revolutionized the timekeeping of sport events. And Longines was the first brand being able in 1914 to time sport events at 1/10 of a second, and in 1916 at 100th of a second. Longines invented the turning bezel, etc., etc. So I was just discovering a treasure, and I said, if I do not know it, then probably there's a good chance that a large majority of other people don't know it. So we really then decided to use this rich heritage a lot more in our product development, as well on the side of the movement, but then also on how we are organizing the structure of the family. And I would say, yes, we were reducing the collection, simplify the collection to give the families that we are really focusing on a more and clearer distinctive face. But we have definitely the rich history, I would say the luxury in Longines, with this rich history, that we can actually cherry pick the most iconic parts of it, to use it for developing movements and bringing out novelties that are using, of course, state-of-the-art technology, but that have always a very strong link to the heritage of the brand. Right now, we know about the first rectangular Longines watch in 1927. But there is a chance also it could be older, because you know that we have this luxury inside Longines that since 1867, every single watch that left the company without any interruption is registered by its serial number, and we can trace the exact date of production, to whom we sold it, but most important also, we have the list of components that must be inside the watch to certify the watch as being authentic. And this trend that, well, today we say yes, rectangular watches that started to become popular, in particular in the 30s. And in the 30s, of course, you had all these Art Deco designs. And then I would say there was a major relaunch of the DolceVita collection then in 1997, with the slogan, "Elegance is an attitude," with the ad campaign of Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn, and with the DolceVita design that we know today. With the Mini DolceVita, we are going one step further, because we are going, I would say, in a direction that even makes the DolceVita a bijou, a jewelry piece, because it's much smaller. But of course, it recalls design elements from the 30s, this combination of straight lines and circled lines. These bricks that were very often used in the buildings, even when you are in New York, and you see all the buildings from the 20s and the 30s, they very often have this combination of straight lines, circles, and these bricks that we integrated, for example, in the design of the steel bracelet of the watch. And this is what we always try to do, to create also a link to the past. So this piece for us is a bijou, it's a jewelry piece, because it's much smaller, because there are some design elements that really recall it. And of course, it's something that expresses extremely well inner elegance and outer elegance. And with this current trend of silent luxury, it perfectly fits to consumers' expectations. Yeah? Well, actually, I joined the Swatch Group in the late 90s because I was working in the telecommunication industry. And you remember that by this time, Swatch diversified with a joint venture with Mercedes for the smart car and with Siemens for telecommunication products. And we had actually by this time already a mobile phone integrated in a watch. Then the group decided to stop this diversification into telecommunication, and I think the decision was totally correct because you remember that by this time all mobile phones were sold for either €0 or €1. So the problem was that for the consumer there was not any value associated to the hardware anymore. Like then also with the internet. On internet everything was with a big discount or for free. It was much later then, and it started actually with Apple, that they again sort of educated to the consumer that they need to pay for hardware, that you need to pay for services that you get on the internet. But by the time when we entered this market, the risk was, because of this non-association between any value to a hardware, that we killed the Swatch brand, because consumers didn't associate any value to the brand anymore, or would not associate the value to the brand. And this is why the project was stopped. But once you have a foot into the watch industry, you get very easily passionate about it and fascinated about it. And I think my personal experience that changed my perception of the whole industry a lot was because we have for many new people that are joining the industry a training class where they give you a pocket watch and then they explain you, of course, the differences of quartz watches, mechanical watches, and at the end of the training they ask you to disassemble this pocket watch and reassemble it again. And I think from this moment your whole perception for the whole industry, for micromechanics, for watchmakers, but also your personal link to a mechanical watch, to a mechanical movement, totally changes your perception of these pieces. And then you get immediately fascinated and passionate, so it's difficult then to leave the industry. I think it's the three elements that differentiate Longines from its competitors. The first is our heritage, that is unique, extremely rich, and we can always look back to this heritage to write the product roadmap for the future. And it gives us also an authenticity, a credibility from the past, because it's the heritage that belongs to us, the history that belongs to us. The second point, I think, what makes Longines very unique is that we have a collection that is equally strong for classic watches and sport watches. Despite the fact that, for example, in the past years, for many brands, a diving-inspired design were the top-selling watches, Longines still had collections like the Master, or families like the Master collection, that was and is still our #1 collection, and it's a totally classic watch collection. But we also sold extremely well sport watches. So we have this balance, and that's very rare, because when you think about other brands, they are either strong for classic watches or either strong for sport watches, but Longines is extremely balanced. And the third point I would say that differentiates Longines a lot from competitors is that we are selling equally well our watches to men and women. And that is a huge advantage, because also most of our competitors, they're either very strong in selling to men or very strong in selling to women. And we have the luck to be very balanced between, and it's really very close to 50-50. And that is a huge advantage. And when I think about our competitors in our price range from 1,000 to 5,000 euros in the past, they all tried to develop lines that are more attractive for ladies. They all failed. They also tried to develop, because they had a strong sport collection, to develop classic lines, but they all failed. So in the price segment of 1,000 and 5,000 euros, Longines is so strong, and we have a huge market share in this segment in all countries around the world because of these, I would say, 3 points that make the brand so unique and strong. Well, we use natural diamonds, and yes, there is now this question with synthetic diamonds on the table. At this stage, it's, I would say, a technology that is not mature because the energy consumption by producing them is huge. But that maybe will change in the future. It's something we are looking closely into it. But I would also say that there's an emotional beauty about natural diamonds because it's a rare good. And of course, when it's a rare good, it has also not only a monetary value, but also a very strong emotional value. Yes, definitely the piece that we have in advertising with Jennifer Rice. And you will see tonight the spot. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.